Welcome to Vanguard University's annual Ensure Justice Conference. First, we're going to have a word from Stephanie Rock about how to access translation. If you've already chosen Spanish, you're in good shape to hear the translation. If you have not, click the interpretation globe at the bottom of the screen and select Spanish. The interpreter, great. The interpreting feature is on, but Stephanie is muted. All right. We're going to move on now. I am so excited to welcome all of our speakers today. We've just been waiting for this amazing day. And I love the chat feature. I'm hearing that the Spanish channel is working and everyone is able to hear it in Spanish as well as English if they choose the Spanish. Okay, that's great. All right, so now we are going to start with a welcome from our beloved president of Vanguard University, Dr. Michael Beals. He has been an advocate for the Global Center for Women and Justice long before now, and often even served on our advisory board, and we appreciate his presence today. Dr. Beals.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Being Crushed, Ensure Justice 2021. We are Mike and Faith Beals.
Hello. Thank you for joining us for the next 2 days for Ensure Justice. And I've been a part of the Community Advisory Board since Mike became president over 7 years ago. And I've enjoyed being on this board. It's a group of people who have a passion for educating people about the issue of human trafficking, and led by Dr. Morgan, who has a passion for educating people, going internationally and also locally. The people on the board have given of their time and their passion and their skills. Some have incredible skills that they have developed far beyond and before they became part of this board. You can find out more just talking to the people on the board, but it is amazing just the depth of the passion of the people on the board. So I encourage you to take part in the sessions, to just take advantage of everything that's being offered over the next 2 days. But I want to thank the board members for all that they do give and all that they bring to the table in putting the Ensure Justice Conference together. So welcome.
And so we welcome you to Ensure Justice, our 15th annual conference. It really is amazing. It's hosted by the Global Center for Women and Justice at Vanguard University and led by Dr. Sandy Morgan, whose leadership is both visionary and she has such a big picture perspective of the issues and what's taking place locally and globally, but also at the granular level. She's an accessible professor on the Vanguard campus. She's a person that any student on campus could go up and have a conversation with, who at the same time she could be anywhere in the world, bringing a focus and mobilizing resources to at some point and someplace in the future, by God's grace, end the scourge of human trafficking. Vanguard University, we're committed to being a resource in education and equipping our students and our community to fight for justice, and justice across the range of issues. But I want to thank the Orange County Department of Education for partnering with us for this third year. I want to especially thank Superintendent Al Mijares, and all the folks of Orange County Department of Education. The partnership with Vanguard is precious to us. This year, our reach extends beyond our campus in Orange County, and while that's the case every year, in this extraordinary time we're in, the technology, and though there are always glitches and things go on, that's kind of a part of it, the technology actually is allowing people to be part of Ensure Justice that otherwise wouldn't be able to. So we have students attending from Seattle University in Washington, John Brown University in Northwest Arkansas, University of Illinois, Old Dominion University in Virginia, University of Wales at Cardiff in the United Kingdom, and we also have professionals attending from Kansas City and Nepal and Kenya and all over. Our noteworthy speakers today include Dr. Al Mijares, who's the superintendent of the Orange County Department of Education, Bishop Philip Kitoto, who's the general superintendent of the Assemblies of God in Kenya, First Lady Fafilia Nez from the Navajo Nation, the Honorable Maria Hernandez, who is Orange County Superior Court Assistant Presiding Judge, and Paul Chang, who is Regional Anti-Human Trafficking Coordinator for the Department of Labor. And so Ensure Justice 2021, Being Crushed, is a 2-day virtual conference for people who want to study the issues, be a voice, and make a difference in the fight to end human trafficking. And I want to shout out one more time to Dr. Sandy Morgan, because in a university environment, it is easy to study the issues and even to find a voice. But we are driving our students and everyone in our community with a passion to say, could we be partners in making a difference, so that when we step off of the front lines, there are people ready to do so. But we will have made progress during the time that everyone on the front lines is doing so. So that third component is critically important. And thank you, Sandy, for leading us and modeling for us what it means to make a difference. Our annual conference considers the unique experiences of vulnerable people to exploitation and trafficking, which have intensified during COVID-19. Being Crushed will focus on early intervention solutions that build resilience, strengthen communities, and provide hope. Speakers will address topics such as resource scarcity, substance abuse and family violence, public health, and mapping resources and adverse childhood experience tools. And so as the president of Vanguard University, it's my privilege to lead a school that has been committed for so long to the issues of justice in its manifold expressions. I'm privileged to serve alongside Dr. Sandy Morgan and her team at the Global Center for Women and Justice, and the way that our Department of Theology and the university as a whole have embraced the Global Center. I know you'll be moved in these 2 days. I know you'll be equipped and you'll be challenged, but hopefully you'll feel encouraged. And you'll know that there's much work to be done, but we are called and God is calling us to do it. From our various places and our various vantage points, we're going to see the difference taking place. Thank you, Dr. Morgan. Thank you, Global Center. And thank you all for being part of Ensure Justice 2021, Being Crushed.
Thank you, President Beals. Thank you, Faith. Faith is my dear friend and encourager. I want to take this time now to open with a word of prayer for the entire 2 days, and then we'll hear from Superintendent Al Mijares. Dr. Al Mijares has been a wonderful friend and colleague for many years, and we began co-sponsoring this conference a few years ago. This is our third opportunity to partner. So please join me in prayer. We have grateful hearts for all who are joining us today, Lord. Here at Vanguard, our students, faraway participants in Nepal and Australia who are getting up in the middle of the night, and our speakers who are staying up late, all focused on understanding one thing. What is it to ensure justice for those being crushed? Individually, what can I do to make things right before someone's life is shattered? Give me ears to hear the wisdom from our speakers today. Thank you for bringing together faith leaders, teachers, social workers, law enforcement, attorneys, doctors, nurses, and parents. Together, we will commit to investing these 2 days in learning so that we are more than a voice. We will do something to keep our community, our families, and our children healthy, whole, and safe. whether online or in person. Amen. Amen. Dr. Mijares, please join us now.
I'm so pleased to welcome you to Ensure Justice 2021 Being Crushed. Each year, the Orange County Department of Education is proud to partner with the Global Center for Women and Justice at Vanguard University to bring you this annual conference focused on ending human trafficking. This year, more than any other, as we meet in a virtual setting due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it is eye-opening for many to realize that online communication has become the #1 form of grooming young people into the life of human trafficking. The statistics are sobering, but each year this gathering raises the awareness of our communities all over, providing knowledge and tools to help us fight this scourge. Obviously, I believe education is one of the best tools we have to combat human trafficking, providing positive supports that focus on creating opportunities, healthy relationships, and addressing the social, emotional needs of our youth with programs like California's multi-tiered system of support is a good start, but we can't stop there. Our team is investing in more ways to support our educators and students with prevention and intervention programs in key areas like alcohol, tobacco and drug prevention, family and community engagement, bullying prevention, restorative practices, health and wellness, as well as social emotional learning and mental health. Over the next 2 days, I encourage you to make connections, form communities, and take the opportunity that Ensure Justice provides to create awareness and bring about change. Finally, I'm pleased that this year, for the first time, Ensure Justice is hosting a Freedom Art Contest for K-12 students. Students were asked for artwork in response to the prompt, "What does freedom look like?" Thank you to all the students who participated, and we look forward to announcing the winners of the contest on Saturday. I'd also like to commend and thank President Beals and Provost Manhattan for their outstanding leadership at Vanguard University, and salute my colleague, Dr. Sandra Morgan, world-renowned educator and fierce fighter of human trafficking, who's motivated, as I am, by the knowledge that all our students are made in the image of God and must be cherished, nurtured, and protected. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mijares. I am always inspired and encouraged by your words of encouragement. You make me feel like I can do more. And I hope everyone in our conference has that same sense of eagerness to learn how to do more. I hope that those of you who are just getting signed in, you've got your notebook ready, you are on Whova, you can see all the announcements. If you have any problem at all, just email us. Someone is manning the gcwj@vanguard.edu email all day today. So if you have any technical issues, let us know. We'll help you work that out. I am grateful for the opportunity to partner with colleagues across the globe. In the last few years, I've had the opportunity to serve on the World Assemblies of God Commission for working on sexual exploitation, slavery, and trafficking. And I have met amazing colleagues who are serving alongside me. And one of those is our guest speaker, opening plenary keynote, Philip Kitoto. Bishop Philip Kitoto is the General Superintendent for the Kenya Assemblies of God. He'll tell you more about that. But what I love when I first met him was finding out that they are present in nearly every community across the entire nation of Kenya. For me, that is like salt. It's preserving. He has started Jabali Christian Schools in Nairobi, 2011. He's also served on various boards, including being the chairperson of Zenduka Africa, an ICC NGO, and he's treasurer of Alarm, an African NGO involved in conflict management on the continent of Africa. In addition, Bishop Kitoto has served as Kenya Assemblies of God Presbyter, District Superintendent for Nairobi, General Secretary, Vice Chancellor of KAG East University, and was elected in 2018 as the General Superintendent. Bishop Kitoto is also an author and a sought-after speaker on issues around families and children. And Bishop Kitoto, I am so grateful to have you here today. It makes my heart happy, and I hope next year you can come in person.
Thank you.
Please join us.
Thank you very much, Dr. Morgan. What a pleasure for me to be here today and be part of this conference. And I'm really excited and happy. I also serve as the president of the KAG East University, a university that prepares young people for the work of ministry, but also for various other secular courses. And what a joy for you to invite me to be part of this webinar. You know, the church is such a big organization that I think if awakened, there's a lot that could happen in ensuring that the war against human trafficking is won. And my talk would basically be in how or what will be the response of the church in trying to fight human trafficking and sexual exploitation. I think I'll begin by talking about some of the factors I think impact the church's response, which seems to be sluggish in most of Africa. And first is the cultural, traditional views on sexuality and human trafficking that seem to impact the thinking of the pastor. There is also the impact of cultural views on the church's teaching and response on sexuality and human trafficking. But also there's the biblical view. And although the church considers sexuality as an issue that cannot be talked about publicly, and pastors cannot even preach about it in the pulpit, the issue of sex exploitation and human trafficking definitely goes against God's word. And I believe that our response as a church must recognize what the Bible says if we are going to engage fully and bring healing and restoration. I think first, the Lord requires a society of justice and mercy and humility, according to Micah 1:8. Secondly, God requires that we learn to do good. We seek justice, to rebuke the oppressor, to defend the fatherless, and plead for the widow. This is in Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 16. And thirdly, Jesus himself came to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, and to set at liberty those who are oppressed. So what is the way forward for the church, a church like Kenya Assemblies of God, in curbing some of the vices that we face in human trafficking? See, to answer this question, one has to look at the role of Christian education as both preventative and restorative. I think most of the time, and particularly in Africa, it's been more knowledge acquisition that doesn't really help in people using the knowledge to live a good life and restore themselves to what God intended. So we have to be guided by the fact that first, God created man in his own image, and this gives man his significance and dignity. God also created man, his innermost being. This gives man his identity and value. A third, we can also see that God is clear that the mission of the church must embrace both the spiritual and the social mandate. So the issue is Christian educators need to understand and internalize certain things. That one, biblically, we are God's image bearers. And God expects us to repossess our innocence and dignity and not allow ourselves to be dehumanized, exploited by the devil. The church also needs to be empowered with knowledge and skill that is both liberative and restorative. But definitely there are challenges facing girls, particularly in this area of human trafficking. We have sexual exploitation due to traditional beliefs and ignorance by the young girls. They seem not to have the education, the understanding, and because of the cultural impact, they tend to lose out on what is key in terms of what they believe about themselves and what God wants them to be. You know, the high price of sanitary products and their limited resources for production limits accessibility to some of these communities where these girls may be found. Lack of proper education and knowledge on issues of sexuality and proper usage of menstruation products is another area of difficulty. Of course, another area is the need for easily disposable, environmental friendly pads for women and girls. And fifth is we find that approximately 65% of Kenyan girls use homemade and hygienic alternatives like torn pieces of clothes. Others use dirty sponges and even animal skin. See, sex offenders also seem to come these days. They come from homes. They have close family members, friends known to the girls. And sex education is generally associated with the avoidance of pregnancy rather than also giving skills and values. So the church's response should seek to follow an integrated approach of impacting these spiritual values, of impacting moral values, and of giving practical skills that would help in the prevention. And so I believe the church needs to have some strategies that would help in doing this. And for us in the Kenya Assemblies of God, we are looking at partnerships in resource and skills acquisition. We're also looking at establishment of a network of distributors and trainers. We're also looking at a network to the church to remain central in the discipleship and provision of support services. You know, Kenya Assemblies of God being almost in 47 counties of the 47 counties in Kenya, we are literally everywhere. And basically, if we have a good network, we'll be able to almost touch every corner. Creating of economic empowerment opportunities for women and youth will also be helpful. And an adoption of schools and areas where churches are located so that we become salt and light in those areas. So we in the Kenya Assemblies of God think of practical ways on how to respond to what is happening to the girl child and even the boy child today. First is adopting menstrual hygiene training as a way of curbing sexual exploitation. We discovered that this would be the best way to arm our children with the best knowledge and the best skills that they would need to prevent themselves. Kenya Assemblies of God, in partnership with WorldServe International, is developing strategies to help deal with the unique challenges faced by girls in low income and vulnerable areas related to menstrual hygiene management. We do realize as a church that poverty, lack of basic services, gender inequality, and cultural taboos related to sexuality make girls and women menstrual health and hygiene, the needs go unmet. The church recognizes also the impact of menstrual hygiene on the academic and spiritual continuity of the girls. Girls from poorer families miss 20% of school because of lack of these sanitary towels. The church realizes also that the experiences of menstruation have reinforced gender inequality and denied the girl child the God-given dignity. Secondly, empowering girls will be another area, empowering girls to stand against social injustices and exploitation. In this practical strategy, EKG is seeking to raise trainers and advocates against social injustices such as sexual exploitation, female genital mutilation, and early marriages that is very prevalent in Kenya. Kenya Assemblies of God realized that the impact of even COVID-19 pandemic on poverty levels has increased early pregnancies and abuse of drugs and alcohol. So due to also high levels of poverty, many parents lack money to provide basic sanitary products, leaving the girls to sexual exploitation. We also believe that equipping pastors to be lobbyists and activists against social injustices will also help by encouraging and giving pastors messages that they can use to preach on Sundays and other times on social justice issues. We believe also equipping the young with values-based teaching will enable them come against pornography and online sexual predators. Another practical area is embracing the activism approach as a position of the church. So the church should not relegate activism only to those who promote this agenda to family planning products that promote abortion only. But the church needs to stand firm and needs to lobby for tax reductions on sanitary products, needs to address the plight of many girls who still cannot afford such pads due to high poverty levels. You see, we need to help girls not to be overly sensitive to parents and feel ashamed of talking about menstruation hygiene management. We need to equip girls to be proud of who they are and not allow anyone to ridicule them or even their classmates. Another practical area is providing skills and training to raise a youth response. We believe that youth are a great force in themselves. The youth must remain at the forefront of eliminating social injustices associated with sexuality and menstrual hygiene. See, some organizations in Kenya, like Fountain of Hope Youth Initiative, provide girls with reusable, washable, 100% eco-friendly sanitary kits. See, these kits last a long time. This serves to reduce the inequalities for girls in schools and ensure they have equal education. So the KAG Next Generation Department is also partnering with One Hope, Maxwell Foundation, 1-450, 414 Window, and many others to disciple and equip and mentor thousands of young people to lead themselves in these areas of values. Another practical area is to intentionally raise the church's social justice initiative. So the church recognizes that lack of proper menstrual hygiene products leads to social injustices among the girls. It's inability to work or attend school because of lack of funds to buy sanitary pads has seen many of these girls fall out of school because of early pregnancies. The church can ensure women and girls are not excluded by advocating against discriminatory cultural barriers that hinder women from interacting with men or attending church due to menstruation. I believe that input of good life skills in the girls and women can help reduce instances of social injustices, such as sexual exploitation, discrimination, and a lack of access due to services. And another practical area that I believe we are adopting is responding to high costs of production and distribution. Because KAG and World Service International recognize three things: social injustices surrounds menstrual hygiene among women and girls. The other thing we realize is that the need for inclusive and quality health and education for all. And another thing we realize is the need to see education and health as fundamental rights that promote gender equality. So as a result, KAG, in partnership with World Serve International, seeks to provide life skills training and empower girls to providing sanitary pads that would have kept them away from school. And as we speak, we are moving very fast in the preparation of ground to put up a plant that will produce these eco-friendly sanitary pads. KAG, in partnership with also World Serve International, Kenya, are raising and committing resources to the empowerment program as a way of reducing such exploitation. We believe KAG and World Serve will target needy girls from vulnerable areas across the Republic of Kenya who lack such basic services. And we believe that as through our women's movement, as we bring these girls to a mentoring program, they'll be able to get the pads, but also get education and skills that would help them in life. So in summary, provision of locally manufactured and environment-friendly sanitary products is our aim by 2022. We are hoping that we can be able to have the factory in place in conjunction with World Serve International, have it in place and producing products and train all the people that will be involved in the distribution and the management, so that by towards the end of the year, we'll be having a machinery of production and distribution and training. We also want to see the development of curriculum to address both the hygiene and the discipleship of the girl and the boy child. This has already begun to some extent. The training and the deployment of trainers is something we want to ensure that we are rolling out, and also partnering with churches, schools, and communities to bring education on sex exploitation and trafficking is another area we want to see that we do. The other thing is providing clean water and economic activity for women and youth by digging wells. Around these wells, we are calling them oasis or oasis wells. We will have economic empowerment activities where women can grow crops and sell the products and young boys can also be involved, and girls can be involved, and mentoring can go on, and we can have an ecosystem of mentoring and coaching and helping reduce poverty, so that some of these girls and boys are not sold out in these evil vices. We believe also providing discipleship materials on values and social issues and families to schools and homes is something we have begun, and we want to fast track in all areas of training in social justice issues. And finally, we are engaging with both electronic and print media on issues of sexuality and human trafficking. Personally, I have been involved in writing for the last 10 years on the issues pertaining to families, which I believe has brought a lot of help to our nation in having an alternative voice that speaks to the nation on these issues. And I will pause there, Dr. Morgan, and allow for any feedback if there be any.
Oh my goodness. There is so much. Let me start my video again. I was taking notes here, and I have started seeing questions coming in. So I'll defer first to our participants who have so many questions. Although before I start the questions, I have to tell you, when I first met you and we started talking about why girls were having problems with school, it reinforced for me that many times we don't have to convince people that girls have equal rights. We have to teach people that they have access problems. And so if you think about, if you have a daughter, if you're a parent or a grandparent or a teacher, and all of your 5th grade girls missed a week of school every month, what would that do to their future? So when we met and you already had a plan for that, I was astonished, encouraged, and frankly shocked. I had honestly never heard a pastor say sanitary pads in a public setting or in a conference. And you're busting down social justice doors. You're changing the language. Oh, people are cheering right now for you on the chat, because you're breaking down those traditional barriers where we don't get to talk about things because we're using language that people are uncomfortable hearing. But you just say it like it's normal. You could be saying, let's stop and get hamburgers for lunch today. It's that simple. And if we can make sure every little girl can go to school every day of the month, that's one amazing prevention tool, and all of the other things. But now I'm going to stop. And I love everything that's going on in the chat. Taboos being torn down, so powerful. Talks from a father's heart. Normalizing will make change. It's so many things. Okay, I'm going to start asking. Questions. Adjunct Professor Ruthie Hanchett asked this question. I love your talk and efforts to address social, spiritual, and practical needs. Can you explain further how the lack of menstrual hygiene impacts the risk of sexual exploitation? I can make assumptions, but would love to hear your perspective. So how does the lack of menstrual hygiene products impact the risk of sexual exploitation?
What has happened to most of our young girls, other than ignorance, that this is a normal thing that would happen at some point and that it needs to be managed. Other people have taken advantage because of the vulnerability of these girls. Some of them come from difficult environments. Some of them come from informal settlements where a sanitary pad is costing so much money that can buy 2 meals for the parents. So would they give that money to the little girl to buy the sanitary pads, or would they rather buy food? As a result, the shame and the fear and all that goes into the little girl makes her become vulnerable to men who use the opportunity and say, I will have sex with you, then I will give you the pads. Now, little girl doesn't know that if I do this, I'm going to get pregnant, or if I do this, I'm going to be defiled. She's just thinking about, I need these pads. And there the problem comes, and a path is opened for some kind of enslavement in that kind of path. So some people use the lack of the pads as a way of exploiting the little girls. The other part is parents have, particularly parents from the rural areas, have not really had time with their girls, with their boys, to talk to them about their growing bodies. So they have no idea of right and wrong in those areas. So it is very easy when it comes to issues of such menstrual hygiene, that they are easy to be deceived by information that is not right. Some of them have been told even simple things like, let me explore and I'll tell you what is happening. And the little fellow does not know what's going on, and before long, they have been abused. So, and these abuses could either happen in homes, some of it has happened in the neighborhoods, some of it has happened in schools away from home. So I hope I've made it a bit clear.
All right. So another question is, what can local churches or NGOs do to support your efforts? What do you need?
Currently, we are working with World Serve that is limited in their resources. We believe that this problem is multifaceted. We know that there are communities where girls are given away because parents need an income. So the idea is, how can we create economic activity for such women so that they don't give away their girls? Two, how can we lessen the burden of the girl needing sanitary pads so that the parent doesn't feel so pressured? And we can also help the parent in terms of economic empowerment. So the church is in a process of, through the support with World Serve, in providing water in all the marginalized areas. We want to do something like 200 wells. Currently, since last year, we are on well number 20. We are providing around that well solar panels that are able to provide water. The women and the local church organizing in a community, they can sell water cheaply and provide clean and clean drinking water to the families, and also farm. As we speak, some of the families have already begun to do the farming. So the big problem would be the need to provide funding for the expansion of the project in terms of providing the water. Secondly, the agricultural part, economic empowerment part, we want to see how we can get seedlings and people with knowledge in that area. And so there are connections we are beginning to get with various people that can help us in that side to get seedlings, which will be good for the areas where these particular people are found. So that would also need funding in terms of that. When we start producing, because the machine is a grant and that is being given through WorldServe, and they are managing it on behalf or in partnership with the Kenya Assemblies of God. We as Kenya Assemblies of God need to raise the minimal funding for maintenance, but also to buy the pads so that the girls can get it for free. So we want to partner, say, with the women's groups in the US, wherever across the world, who can buy a packet of 12 for these girls. And we can then take the pads plus training to the girls. So the big issue would then be the financing of the production of free pads to these girls, because we already have the machine for free, but we have to maintain it. We have to ensure that it is, we are producing the pads and we're paying electricity and all that. So we don't want, again, to put a burden on them and saying, hey, keep coming to do this. So those are the needs, particularly in the production, the distribution, and also in the economic empowerment areas.
That is so exciting. The aspect of sustainability, we don't just do it once, we have to keep it going. And thank you, Dawn Marie, for asking that question. We will post on Whova a link to Bishop Kitoto. Probably we'll put that in the exhibit so that you'll be able to reach out to KAG. Now, another question, and it takes me back to what you said about multifaceted. There isn't one answer for any of this, and empowering the parents protects the children. But now I have a question. What efforts are being made to educate men to prevent them from taking advantage of vulnerable girls? Can't wait for this answer.
What we within the Kenya Assemblies of God, we have various departments, and for now we are trying to look at this through the Kenya Assemblies of God departments in helping bring the training and the mentoring and coaching. So the women's department will deal with the girls, and the men's department will deal with the men. And we are hoping that we can have cohorts of men in the rural areas led by local church men in those areas to do coaching. We are also desiring to produce family materials in local languages that will be available to the local churches, so that when they come to get water, for example, or when they come for economic empowerment, because we are doing things like agriculture with some of the men, when they come, they don't just come to do economic empowerment. There is discipleship before the economic empowerment activity. So we are hoping that through the men's department, we are able to mobilize men that can do that. Thirdly, there is also the youth segment through the youth ministry and in collaboration with many bodies from the US that have helped us, like Maxwell, and others, and One Hope and all the others. We are trying to get the materials, and we started about 3 years ago or 4 in doing discipleship to the youth. And we're believing that as we do these things, we'll be spicing and creating some kind of a counterculture that though small, it will be happening little by little. And then thirdly, using the arts in Kenya is it's a big industry, music and the arts. We are hoping that we can do road shows with the arts and be able to get particularly the teenagers who are then hooked into this kind of abuse also, and be able to give them that kind of education. So we are trying to go multifaceted using the various departments that we have.
Wow. Okay. And you did mention at the beginning concern for boys as well. Here in the US, we're beginning to understand more than 16% of commercially sexually exploited children are little boys. What do you think do you have an idea about if that's starting to be noticed and seen in Kenya as well?
I think over about 2 years to 3 years ago, we began to see the same problem. And in fact, some of them are being abused right in their own homes by their fathers, their uncles. So it's a problem. We have what we within the Kenya Assemblies of God, what we call the missionaries and the Scouts movement, which we within some other churches, they have some mentoring programs that touches on areas of life skills with this particular younger generation. So we are hoping that with that kind of approach, we will soon possibly come with another stronger program, particularly on the boys. But currently, I would say we are a much more stronger with a program towards the girl child and the mother.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you. Back to the menstrual hygiene products. Someone wants to know if there's a way to sign up for a monthly subscription to sponsor a girl's products.
I think what we can do, Dr. Morgan, is to then if they got in touch through you, then we can provide the information on how that can be done. Either through the group we are working with from that side, or we can give them direct contact, and that way we can be able to begin to sponsor the girls, because that is the biggest need. We will have the products, but we may not be able to have enough funding to do the distribution and give them for free.
Okay, good answer. And I have another question. Good morning. Thank you so much for hosting this incredible event. Bishop, thank you for your time and knowledge. I was wondering if you could clarify menstrual hygiene. Are we talking only about periods, or are we talking about the whole ovulation, menstrual, pregnancy cycle? Just pads and tampons, or also birth control?
We, as a Kenya Assemblies of God, we are strong, very strong on the issues of abstinence. And we believe that when we give our kid, our girl child, the information, they are the power in themselves to come against the vices that come upon them. So when I talk about this, I'm talking about the whole circle in terms of how that is. In fact, I limited it only to that, but we are a little bit wider in the whole area of community health evangelism also, where we are dealing with the areas of nutrition and areas of how can we stay healthy against vices like even drug addiction and all that. So it's a whole embrace for us. But in my address here, it is, yes, the whole cycle of all that. They need to understand, how do I get pregnant? They need to understand, okay, if I get pregnant, what are the responsibilities? So once they understand the whole cycle up to that way, they can therefore know, okay, is this a responsibility I want to get to? And if I have, for us, we teach them, you know, if you have an abortion, this is what the Bible says about it. This is what, you know, we give them the information, but we don't deny them their choices.
Okay. And one more question about that. How close are you to opening the factory? It says 2022.
Yes, we are actually about, I would say, 50% to 60% done. We should begin installation in the next 2 months. So we are seeing production very soon, maybe in the next maybe 4 months or so.
Okay, now I want to ask some questions because what I see in you, Bishop, is a model for faith leaders anywhere. Sometimes when we talk to faith leaders, we change our voice, we change our vocabulary, and we become very spiritual. And what I absolutely am inspired by is how real and approachable, accessible in the community that you are. And to make my point, I want to mention a publication that you are a columnist for, The Nation. Yes. And here are some of the questions, people, that Bishop Kitoto answers right straight from the heart. Here's one. The woman I cheated with is pregnant with a stranger's baby. What do I do? Should I reconcile with my ex for the sake of our toddler? I'm worried about our long distance relationship. My son and I feel unwelcome in my married sister's house. My girlfriend is only 19. Will this relationship work? I have been very lonely. My best friend's wife is physically abusive. How do we help him? So can you talk a little bit about, oh, I love this one. My girlfriend makes me feel insecure. So tell me why you do a column on relationship. It's like Dear Abby was for me when I was growing up.
Oh dear. I think it started as a passion. My wife and I, when we were dating, we got a very good man and woman. They were husband and wife, old couple that really helped us to understand issues of sexuality and helped us to understand how we can make a great home. And I can't say we have not made mistakes. We have. I can't say that we have not been what we need to be. There are things we have done that could have been done better, but we are generally very happy that we went through that. As a result, the last many years that we have been married, we have done nothing as a couple but help other young unmarried people, young people, to learn how to stay safe and be committed and not leave each other in trouble. So we have this whole passion of writing, talking about these issues for as long as we have been married. So doing this for us became even more evident when the nation in Kenya began to, there was chaos, dysfunction everywhere in the families. And there was no alternative voice to speak sense into the public. So I would say without a shadow of a doubt, this paper that I write for is the largest paper in Eastern Central Africa. It is also a paper that is read the most. It's an English paper, and they started by giving me 2 whole big pages, and they now give me 1 page. My column is the best read for most of the time. So is just to thank God that a secular paper can give me this opportunity. And as a result, I have been on several channels, television, radio, to speak about the same. And I would say, without a shadow of a doubt, I maybe was one of the earliest pastors to break the kind of myths that you are talking about on national television or on radio, and talk very bluntly about some of these issues.
All right. I'm going to start subscribing to The Nation because I don't even know how to answer some of those questions. All right. Are there any more questions? I'm going to take a quick look back here. This has been such a rich conversation, and I'm so grateful for your wisdom and your transparency. I hope that we can see this more prevalent across the globe, because helping little girls go to school is an issue everywhere I've been, not just in Kenya, but you're the only one that I've heard talking about it. And so I just want to thank you for being a voice. Our verse for this conference is Proverbs 31:8. Be a voice for those who have no voice, ensure justice. And this is such a great example of being a voice and then actually doing something about it, making sure they have what they need. So grateful for what we're doing. And I'm just going to give you a 3-minute summary moment so you can wind everything up and say goodbye to all your new followers and go to bed. Although you're welcome to stay on the conference with us, but I know it's pretty late over there.
Yes, it's about 9 p.m. in the night. And I have had 2 long webinars today. I was doing one for the prayer, as you know, the prayer that we needed to record. So yeah, but I'm very grateful for the opportunity. But really, this is my heart passion. We have our young people, they are hurting. One Hope just did an American NGO did a research, and they found that close to 80% of the young people say that they are Christians, but 30% they are committed. Only 30% are committed, and as a result, really, the issue of faith and practice becomes a problem in our nation. Of late, we've had lots of underage children found locked up in a room, some of them 40, 50, locked up in a room somewhere. And it is indescribable what you would find in such spaces. So it's not just a journey that is being pushed by predators in terms of enslavement in these practices, but also now, because there are so many mentors and teachers online, our young people are just picking this information and they are now becoming their own teachers. So our passion and our desire as a denomination is to make a difference in the lives of young people, but also in the lives of families. Because if the family is right and the church is doing their place, then basically we will have the nation be transformed and become what God intended it to be. Thank you everyone for listening, and thank you for allowing me into your space.
Thank you for joining us.